Hello and welcome to Doing Time, where humans talk about their experiences in a psych ward. Today we have guest Dominic. How are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Is my level okay?
Yeah.
We don't have headphones, so...
No, I was just talking about that. Yeah, so my first question I always ask on the show is how much time have you done? And that means like in a psych ward, mental health facility, therapy, that kind of stuff.
Well, I've been in therapy for over 5 years.
Okay.
I was inpatient for a good 4 weeks.
Wow, okay.
And then I was in an outpatient program for quite a few weeks after that. So when I decided I needed more help, then the place I was at, I went to go inpatient, and to be honest, my wife and I thought I was going to be in a day program. It was a big shock when I went inpatient to the second floor.
Gotcha.
So
were you at a hospital then?
I was in a hospital.
And you were just getting like evaluated to see like if you can go to a day program or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had a plan.
Okay.
To complete the act of suicide. And it's something I speak very freely about. And especially since I think, does this drop on Friday?
Yeah, usually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Saturday, the 23rd, will be the official title of the 23rd is Survivors of Suicide Lost Day.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
So I did have a plan, and I think we should also mention that I'm not a comedian. Most of your guests have been stand-up comedians.
Yeah, most of them.
I think the difference is that I do know Curtis at Laugh Factory, and I asked if I could come on and share my story. I'm just really, I'm not a life coach. I'm not a therapist.
Yeah.
I'm just really someone that decided to go another day. So I had a plan, and I could never really figure out how to go through with my plan without my wife finding me. And I never wanted to put my wife through that.
So was that kind of what stopped you?
That was the biggest thing that stopped me.
Okay.
But the better narrative of it would be the one day when I was like, I just can't take it. And I wanted to mention for anyone who lost anyone out there, who lost anyone to suicide, where I was at the time, and I can only speak from my experience.
Of course.
Where I was at the time, once I went inpatient, it was diagnosed that I did have bipolar disorder. Okay. But my mindset was not proper at the time, and we can get more into the conversation.
Yeah. So when you say you're bipolar, so obviously, are you bipolar 1 or 2?
Bipolar 2.
Okay, so you're like a little less manic and
more depression.
Okay. So when you were planning to attempt suicide, were you in a depressive state?
I was in a depressive state.
Okay.
And I was also at a point where, and I don't want to get too much in on this just so it doesn't take away from the story.
Yeah.
I was at a point too where I thought I was being watched.
Okay.
Just so people out there understand that at some point, maybe a loved one wasn't in the right mind. I can only speak from my own personal experience.
Yeah, but even though you are speaking from your own personal experience, a lot of people have similar experiences, and that's like what you find out on the podcast. Like people keep bringing up the same themes over and over again, and I think that's super important to bring that up. Even though you are speaking from your own experience, but don't you don't have to be that careful in terms of like you can go into whatever you want.
So there was a van outside. I thought that van was watching me.
There was a van outside?
I thought the van was watching me.
Okay.
And that...
but it wasn't like a reoccurring van, right?
It was just a van that was out there that day. It was
just
a van out there that day.
Gotcha.
But I thought that van was watching me. I thought I went out to get... I'm like, I'm not doing self-care. I need to go out and get something to eat. Mm-hmm. Now, keep in mind, I was in therapy at this time. But I was not medicated at this time.
Yep.
And then I went out to eat. Now, keep in mind the fashion at the time, and in therapy, I learned the tools for thinking better.
Yeah, for sure.
And processing this. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that therapy teaches you, on how to process these thoughts when they come. At the time, 5 years ago, big, thick, black rimmed glasses were the fashion in men, but my mindset was that there were cameras in those glasses recording me
with the little flip those.
So that
Gotcha. Okay.
that's where I was.
Yeah.
So that was the day when my wife came home that I said, I need help and we need to go somewhere more.
And that's fantastic.
Yeah.
What made you tell her that you wanted more help? Because you were already getting therapy, right? So you could have just used the excuses I'll get help from therapy, kind of keep doing the same thing. But usually it takes a big shift for somebody to... And so you're saying when you told her you needed help, that was the point where you went to the hospital, thought you were going to be an outpatient, but you were an inpatient, correct?
Yeah, I thought I would do a day program.
Right.
To help build my tools.
It's like a 9 to 5 kind of thing. Yeah. So build your tool. Yeah, the toolbox.
The toolbox.
The great old toolbox. So... what made you, what shifted that you told her I needed help, right? So you could have gone through with it.
And, and that was, again, I never wanted to be something where she came home or had to get the news that this happened.
Yeah.
She's just too... What's the language? What language can we use on this podcast? But
you can say anything.
Yeah, but she's just too special to me, and she's too amazing of a person.
Oh, yeah. I thought you meant special the other. I was like, wait, what?
No, she's just too she's just too amazing of a person.
Yeah.
And there's my folks are good too, and everyone. I mean, there's the quote. I don't want to botch it, but I didn't want to leave everyone else in the wake.
Of course.
Of this act.
Yeah. That's
So we went. I did the evaluation, and Jenna was very much. She goes, you just have to be honest with them. You have to tell them everything.
Yeah.
And I did. I told them everything, and then they brought Jenna in. And they said, we're going to admit Dom. And then I said, well, do I have to? And then they said, yeah, well, you could go home, but we're going to come and get you.
Okay, so
I'm like, okay, well, let's go.
Like, wherever you go, there they are.
And when they said that, I made the commitment to it, full on.
Really?
Yeah.
There wasn't, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, once I knew.
So you really did want help then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Once Jenna had, she was still processing it when they were admitting me. Yeah. They take your belt, they take your shoelaces, they take everything.
Yeah.
And she was in such an emotional state on the second floor that everyone else inpatient was very surprised that she was the one that left and I was the one that stayed.
Yeah.
That everyone, they all said,
they're like, are you sure we don't
wait,
need to...
why is he the one staying?
Yeah,
he
exactly.
He was fine. And I was, and I was just, I was kind of like, I don't want to use the phrase in it to win it, but I was like, okay, this is where I need to be.
Right.
And I fully on committed to it.
Of course. And how was your experience there? Like, what was it like? Because you were committed, right?
Yeah. I compare it to this. when I was on the second floor, you know, if it was Walking Dead, I was kind of like Rick, that okay, we're all in this together. We all got to pull together. It's
That's
programs.
amazing.
Let's all. I was the guy that walked down to everyone's rooms like, okay, it's programs. This is what we're here for.
Right.
Let's all.
And I'm sure you got people who like weren't into it.
Yeah, there's some people that are like, I'd rather play a game.
Right.
I'm like, okay, but this is what we're
depression,
here for.
Yeah, we gotta fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they called me the mayor.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of what you were,
Yeah.
though. I mean, you're watching out for everybody. That was always great to have in the psych ward, was one person who kind of was just, you're like, ugh, I guess I have to go to group now.
But,
so why do you think you were like that, though?
I think it was just, I think I knew I needed people around me for support, too, and I needed a community.
Yep.
For support. And I've always been looking for a community.
Yeah.
Now, that mindset totally bit me in the ass when I went to the day program. Because the day program...
Was it out of the hospital?
It was the same hospital, just on the first floor.
Gotcha, okay.
The people that were in the day program didn't want someone with that mindset.
Yeah.
They wanted a little more laid back. They wanted... and they would give notes. Oh, well, Dominic's not sharing. Dominic wants us to talk more. Because I would be like, okay, come on, let's go. Let's all do this.
Did you almost use that as a way to cope, to not deal with your own stuff?
And it was interpreted that when I was on the day program, that I was using it to not deal with my programs, and I got put into like the Nurse Ratched program of the day program.
Okay.
So, I was always like, oh, I loved inpatient,
right?
And then in the day program, I was put in the.
So you did have a good experience in the psych ward, and that is something to talk about too, because it's like there are people who have bad experiences. I've had both for sure, but not all bad. Because sometimes I had a bad experience in Denver, but there were some highlights that I had that were good in the psych ward. But I mean, it is an important thing to stress that since you are kind of ripped away from your family, like you're ripped away from your wife, and you go into this place where everybody's in a bad state, and then you have to relate to them when you're all in a bad state. It's just so I think it's really cool that you tried to make a camaraderie out of it, because you're like, you might as well just get the best out of it, which is great. So do you think that, what do you think, to explain to people, because I kind of know the answer, but what do you think shifts when you go from inpatient to day program? Like, why do you think people are more laid back and like different almost?
I think some people are. I think inpatient is more of a survivor mentality. Where, when I say it was like, the zombie apocalypse, Walking Dead, some people, this is their last chance and stuff like that. Some people, they got, and the, but day program, when you're in day program also, it's a little more school. Day program is, also, when you're in inpatient, you're adjusting to your meds.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
That they're literally just there to like prescribe you stuff so that you can get out and. Yeah. But it does help though, right? Because you said that you were going to therapy, but you didn't feel. That's partly how I ended up in the hospital. Yeah. I got off all my meds and I was just like a basket case. Like I was just a wreck 24/7. Like I was appearing fine because I was doing Division 1 and going to school, but my head was like exploding, and that's part of the reason like why I honestly liked going to the hospital, because I got prescribed stuff to help me. Like I did get the right medication, but you are there just to do that, and they don't really care as far as like anything past that goes. But why do you think the day program is a little bit more chill? You said it was more just like inpatient survivor, and then day patient. What would you equate that to?
Day patient, everyone, I felt everyone had their own thing that they were going for, and everyone's dealing on their own stuff,
right,
as opposed to a group thing. So you're not looking for a community in day patient. So
100%, yeah,
on that. And also, after I did day patient, and I was out for a week after like a good couple of weeks of the day patient. I was out, and then it discovered I had to go back inpatient again because the meds I was on wasn't working. So, and then some people were like, "Wait, what are you doing back here?"
Yeah, yeah,
and
for sure.
They're like, I was just like, I just gotta get my meds readjusted. Cause I was.
And then you had to go through all the stuff that you have to go through in like the day programs and stuff.
I didn't have to do the day program again. I just had to go in for adjustment, and you just.
Speaking of hospitals.
Yeah. You just have to be, very honest about how, you're going to feel different when you're on meds, but you just got to be honest about how you actually feel.
Right.
Because there got to a point when I got back into my daily routine where it just became too much, and it got to a point where I was just like, what I was on was just like left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot.
So like walking, very robotic.
Yeah.
No, did you feel like you had no affect?
Yeah, and I just had to go in, and and my wife went in with me, and as my doctor said, "Oh, when the family comes in, now I know there's
there's like an issue, of course, because 100%, yeah." So
he goes, "Well, we're gonna go back. We need you to go back in so I can monitor this, but." He said, you got, if something wasn't working, you got to tell me. And I said, well, I just thought it was because of all the work I was doing.
Are you on one medication or?
At the time, I was on a ton of stuff. Now I'm down to 2.
Okay. What are you on?
I'm on Topomax and Prestique.
I'm on Prestique.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. It's
Prestique.
The best.
Prestique is the best.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Okay, so I was on a similar medication called Effexor, very similar to Prestique, but instead of, there's like, the norepinephrine reuptake and the serotonin reuptake. And usually meds are one of each, but Prestique is a combination of both.
Prestique is the best.
It is the best. It's the only medication that I've been on for over 2.5 years where I can say, like, I am the most stable I've ever been. I'm on a mood stabilizer too, but that's like the main thing that does the heavy lifting. And it's great. If anybody like is thinking about it, that's like a good one. That had no weight gain, no weight loss, like just nothing happened to me. And then are you on another one?
Topomax.
What is that for? Is that for mood stabilization? Or?
One is for mood stabilization, and one is for the depression.
That's what I'm on too. Are you on any sleeping medications?
I was.
Where were you on?
Abilify.
Okay, yeah. I heard that can cause like what's the thing with your jaw? What's the thing that like tics almost?
Yeah, I'm off it now.
Okay.
Just to kind of get off not being on so much.
Well, it's an antipsychotic, so it probably makes you tired. That's what I'm on for. It sounds scary because it's called an antipsychotic, but I'm on Seroquel for sleep, and it helps me tremendously.
Yeah.
I
was on Seroquel also for a little while too.
Yeah. Like in the day?
No.
Okay. Because some people are like, I'm on it in the day, and I'm like, how do you function?
Yeah.
Like, I fall asleep right away.
Yeah. No, there was a point where we were getting ready for a trip, and Jenna was doing all my pills, and she was like, how many are you on?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. I realized how many pills I was taking when I was sleeping at my boyfriend's, and he was like near my house, and he's like, I'll just go pick him up, and he had to FaceTime me my pill box. And he was like, what? How many? You have to get it for the night and the morning. And I take like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
I take like 2 Trileptal. It's my mood stabilizer.
Yeah.
At night, plus a Prestique. And then in the morning, I take another mood stabilizer and like a stomach medication thing. So I'm just like on a lot, and then sleeping pill at night. Yeah. So I'm like on a lot of stuff.
And one of the reasons, even though I needed to be on meds, I was putting it off for so long.
And why is that?
Because I was afraid.
Time to share, Dom.
Yeah, I was afraid. I was afraid. I was someone that I didn't drink, and I didn't drink a lot, and I didn't want to give in to, I didn't, for whatever, not for whatever reason, but I was, I didn't. I don't know if it was the paranoia or not giving into
and
the
and most people here's my
thing to get a drink of water.
So here's my thing is I think a lot of people assume that like they're like, oh, I don't want it to change my personality or whatever, which is funny because it's like it's not like when you take or when you smoke weed you get high, right? Or when you do a drug you get high. It's a drug that you it's like taking CBD, like you kind of notice just like a shift and you're like, oh, I feel different. But it's not like you're thinking different or like when you're high you get like sleepy. It's just you feel normal, but you don't feel like when most people when they're depressed feel like a weight is on them, like you feel heavy. It doesn't make you feel like that. It just makes you feel quote unquote
and it's
normal.
done under a doctor's care, so someone looking out for you. So it was done much later than it needed to be, and I'm reaping the benefits of now going into it. So life could have been better earlier on if I had gone for it.
And how long have you been on this like current cocktail?
That's the thing. It's a very delicate cocktail, so it was like, the current cocktail I'm on, I've been on for a good.
You still use the current cocktail?
The current cocktail has been about a good year.
Okay, cool. So. I don't know if you've had that. How long have you been on meds for though?
Good 5 years.
Okay, so I've been on a little longer than you. And I mean, there has been times where like I thought one was the one. Like I was on Cymbalta for like 2.5 years and then it just stopped working. Like I felt like it was just I would go up and then go down and they're like, we don't know. Like, and I think I read something about a refractory period and how like you can take medication for like 2.5 years and then it can just stop. And then I switched. And now this is my current, like, so has that ever happened to you? Where you used one for a while and then it didn't work?
I've I've peeled stuff away.
Okay.
But I've never been in the experience yet where one has stopped working.
Okay. So when you were, I want to ask you a question because there's not, people know bipolar 1 and bipolar, mostly bipolar 1, right? So that's the one where it's stereotypical, like a lot of mania, a lot of depression. So you knew you needed help when you were depressed, and what are your manic states like? Like when you have more like of that up, do you know because when you were depressed, you said you were self-aware enough to know, right? So what is that state like for you?
Manic, when the manic comes on, it gets a little scary. It's kind of like being on a horse you can't quite get off of. Is how I would describe it. You're just kind of riding it, but you're the horse also.
So you're in full control of everything?
No, you're not. It's a bronco that you're...
Okay.
Maybe that's a terrible analogy.
No, that's okay.
My friend T says I need to work on my analogies. It's just kind of like, you ever babysit a kid and you give them soda pop and the parents say, don't give them soda pop?
Yeah. It's just
and
like
you give
that,
them
like...
soda pop, and then they're like, "Oh my God, now I got to deal with this kid." You're that kid.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what the manic is like, and and you can't quite listen to yourself as you're trying to calm yourself down with the manic state and the hyperness and everything like that.
Okay, we are back from break. Hello. Dom just brought me a journal, which is really sweet. Thank you so much. And this book. Okay, so per recommendation. Okay. Right?
Yes. It's Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Okay. So, over 2 million copies sold. Wow.
Yep. Viktor Frankl is... this is a book that when I was in the day program my therapist gave me, and I found it extremely helpful, and I find it extremely helpful to turn back to. So Viktor Frankl was a survivor of the Holocaust.
What?
Yes. And he writes about how he found that the people that were in the atrocity, but still had a task that they found meaningful, were able to get through that horrendous time.
Yeah.
So
You saying my life is like the Holocaust?
no, not at all.
I'm joking.
But
this is really cool.
I think
he's a psychiatrist?
he's a psychiatrist.
Wow.
His message is that, and this gets paraphrased if you saw the movie City Slickers with Curly's One Thing.
I've never seen it.
I know, I got old
I'm bad at
references. No, I got really old references. If you go
people-
online, you'll see gray in my beard.
Yeah.
That if you choose something meaningful
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to chasing happiness, you'll find life more rewarding.
Wow. That's
That
interesting.
too many people go after trying to find happiness and
That's real. I really
Yeah.
like that. That's
Yeah.
really interesting because I feel like, especially as a comedian, I don't know if you know, because you're friends with Curtis, like,
Yeah.
I feel like our goals are like credits, getting on
Yeah.
TV,
Yeah.
like getting a good, type 5, type 10, whatever, 30, 60. But in reality, you know, because if you want to be famous or whatever, everybody has different
Yeah.
goals. But in reality, like, the meaning is like, I want to be good at something, right?
and that
I don't focus on that.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I need to do this, to get booked here,
Yeah.
like. So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because for me, that is more just like, it's more for me like comedy is just like a fulfillment of, I know I'm good at something, doing what I love and stuff like that, but I don't focus on that enough. I focus on like external motivation,
Yeah.
which is easy when you're trying to make an audience laugh, you know, because it's like all external. It's based on other people. So, and so what would that be for you? Like, why did this help you specifically?
Well, when I learned that I wasn't going to return to the job I had at the time,
Yeah.
I started volunteering at a bunch of places
Mm-hmm.
and looking for what would be meaningful in a new career for me. And
Yeah.
so I volunteered at a bunch of places and tried to see what would be the best place for a new type of career.
Yeah.
And I just kind of used that as, you know, a litmus test, you know.
Okay.
When you know, to take it to comedy,
Right.
how many times do you hear stories about comedians that say, you know, I was kind of, you know, in the 90s doing the main type of scene, and then I kind of broke away and kind of was focusing on material that meant more to me, and then I built the audience that followed the type of material that I was doing,
Yep.
and then it was more meaningful to me, and then I was building an audience that was more appreciating it as opposed to, you know,
Pleasing everyone.
pleasing everyone
And not
stuff
having
like that.
your own
Yeah,
kind of like niche group,
Yeah.
which is really cool. I always love that.
Yeah.
Like there's certain people that you see, like Bill Burr and all these people who have like very niche type of audience where
Yeah.
they like his anger and they like his stuff
Yeah.
that's like aggressive. And I think if he was just an open micer, nobody would laugh. They're like, oh, he's just
Yeah.
an angry guy. But he built that audience and built that fan base, and
Yeah.
he's my favorite comedian
Yeah.
out there right now. And I think that, yeah, super meaningful to like
Yeah.
build your own audience versus being like, I can pan to everyone,
Yeah.
which is great too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You know, it's like how Bill Hicks, you know, he was able to find an area he was appreciated in London and everything, and then he would come back to the States and have to play
Yeah.
these, you know,
Huge.
the UFO tours and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah. Very different. So do you journal?
Yes, let's talk about journaling.
Yeah.
I do journal, and I also do write.
Okay.
And they're two different things.
Yeah.
So, journaling is about getting the thoughts down that you're dealing with. I'm going to give you a journaling exercise
Okay.
to do.
Okay.
And you can tell me, you can DM me and tell me how,
I will.
how this works
I will.
for you.
Yeah.
So, one thing that works for me, being bipolar, as a catch, is I may choose a person that's my firewall. And if I catch myself about to behave in a certain way, I may say, uh-oh, that's like so-and-so. I don't want to act that way. And that works as a firewall for me, for my behavior, to catch myself. So, this is the journaling exercise.
Okay.
I'm going to say, who's someone who has behavior
Yeah.
that you don't want to emulate
Okay.
in your day-to-day routines, that's your firewall, and why? So that's the first thing you have to journal.
Okay.
Now here's the twist.
Okay.
What about that person's personality do you do respect? And you can learn from. Because we can learn something from everyone out there.
100%.
Yeah.
And do you find, and I will do that because there's because I'm going through some stuff right now that I think, I've always learned too that sometimes the things that I don't like about other people are what I see in myself, which, most people should learn about that. It's very true, like projecting and stuff like that.
What I mainly learned used journaling for was I had a ton of triggers. So what I would do is repeatedly go through the events and go through them. And when you're journaling, you're not trying to be Virginia Woolf or Ernest Hemingway or anything like that. You're just telling it emotionally as it's pouring out of you.
Right. This
is not something that's going to see print or the light of day for anyone that's hearing this for the first time. So I would do a circle of these triggering event journals to kind of depower them and take away the impact of them. So if something would continually give me night terrors, because that's something I was dealing with.
Yeah, I do that a lot too.
I would journal about that.
Okay.
And what was it, and go through it, and just kind of,
And when you journal and you kind of went through it, did you realize kind of what the root of that was from the journaling?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of like the what's the Harry Potter thing, with the cabinet and the creature.
I am so bad with any movie.
Okay, if you DM us, you get a famous no prize.
Too bad it's not live.
Yeah, if you DM us after watching this, you get a famous no prize, to quote Stanley.
But so you think that you are able to find that kind of like underlying thing, and I think for me, and I talked about this with Maddie in the last episode, is that a lot of times, just figuring out what it is almost removes it. Yeah. Because it's just knowing what's causing it, and then once you know it, then you have the awareness to stop it. Yeah. So for me, that's like a huge thing. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, do you want to talk about, I know we took a break, do you want to talk about what your manic states are kind of like, or what happened during them, or? Yeah. I
can talk about last night. I was in a bit of a manic state last night where my wife was concerned.
Really?
I came around, I came home and was very up and high, and it's kind of like you don't have that catch for your behavior. And the boundaries of your behavior is what manic state is. Okay. So it's like almost being.
So you just feel jittery?
You feel on, and you feel like you're in an Ace Ventura mode. Okay. Am I giving another movie reference?
Kind of. I've seen it, but not too well. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I've had states like that before, but I don't think they're too much. I've also I used to take ADHD medication, so I know that kind of hyper kind of feeling. Yeah. And then it just takes one thing to snap you out of that high. Okay. And then you just fall to the lowest low. Really? Just one thing, and then you're a puddle. And did that happen or no?
It didn't. Luckily, I caught it, and I know some different tricks to. Okay. I'm not doing self-care. I didn't eat properly today. I'm gonna go have a meal.
That's interesting that you can kind of wind yourself down. Yeah. From that. Well, my thought is when I'm, and I can't speak for being bipolar because I'm diagnosed with major depressive disorder. Yeah. But I think for me, at least when I'm super, super depressed, I really am how can I get out of this? How can I blah, blah, blah. But I think when you're manic, like, do you not have that same thought, though? Do you kind of, like it? Or, like...
I used to love it.
Yeah.
Like, in high school, I was manic most of the time.
Really?
And then in college, it was depressed, and I was like, when's the happy coming back? And I didn't... At the time, I didn't know that it was extremes. And I was, like, in college, I was like, when's the happy coming back? When's the happy coming back? And I just didn't know I was... bipolar.
You just thought it was how you
therapy.
felt. Yeah. You said to, like, go through life kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so you've been in therapy for, you said, 5 years?
I've been in therapy for over 5 years.
Okay.
I've been on medication for 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I was in therapy for a little bit before that. The first therapist didn't work, and I'd like to give that note. I always say, if you feel the therapist isn't working out, it's okay to go and start with another therapist.
Oh, and have you ever done that?
Yeah, I did do that. Yeah.
Okay, and why was that? I've done that too. I just want to know your reasoning.
It was a style of therapy that wasn't. I needed something that was going to do more exposures.
Okay.
And
I did exposure therapy.
Yeah, and that's what I'm currently in, where I'm doing exposures.
Really? Okay, can we talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, because I was going to say we should talk about changing therapists, which is always like an option.
Well, we can talk about both. But,
okay.
Yeah.
So what are your exposures currently? Are you in a program right now?
No, but I'm not in a program. But one of the programs I was in was doing exposures.
Okay, and what were your exposures, if you don't mind sharing? This is so exciting! I've never had somebody on that's done exposures except me. Okay.
So let me think. Now I would do like different exposures and stuff like that. What's one I would do? So I hate driving.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hate driving. So driving is a huge exposure for me.
Really? Mm-hmm. Is it the anxiety and fear of others around you, or what is
everything?
It's everything.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, everything about a car is the vehicle is an exposure you never know what's going to happen with. If you want to see me at my worst state, if you want to see the whole spectrum of me, be in a car with me. My wife does most of the driving.
Okay.
So a full
like up, down,
everything.
Yep. I 100% feel that. So a lot of people don't know about exposure therapy. It's like kind of a newer thing. I'm having somebody on who was actually in the same program as me. We didn't know it, but they're also a comedian. So, and we figured out we both went to Roger's facility, which is pretty dope. But I was wondering, because a lot of exposures is incremental, but a lot of times, like, your exposures are, you have to get through life, you have to drive at some point, right? Especially if you have a car. So jealous, honestly. But what does that look like for you? Is it incremental, or you just kind of, do you decide to drive something? Do you go for a drive, or like decide like, oh, I need to be here, maybe I'll drive and do an exposure? Like, how does that work for you?
It is having someone safe in the car with you. Okay,
so you don't go alone.
I don't go alone.
Okay.
Someone that's not going to yell at you. The worst thing that ever happened was during the process was it was holiday shopping.
Yeah.
And Jenna was like, I have to run to an appointment, and she handed me the keys to the car, and she says, "Here, you have to just drop me off and go." And I couldn't get the car going. I couldn't figure out the car. Like, technology now the cars are becoming smarter than we are.
Yeah.
I'm a technophobe.
You couldn't figure out how to, like, to turn it on?
I couldn't figure out how to turn it on. It was just coasting.
Oh my God.
And I just kind of, like, put the brake on and called her and made her come back.
Oh my God, okay.
And I was just like, and then we parked the car, and then I want to say this was during the time period where there was I fell down shortly after that and couldn't get up.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot. It's rough.
Yeah, I was walking and I fell down, and she was walking away. She turned the corner, and I asked a couple, I said, Can you call?
Yeah.
I need...
Yeah. I mean, so okay, so what are some of your other exposures besides that? That's obviously seems like a big one for you.
Let me think of another one because it's been a while since I've been doing exposures because most of the exposures were 5 years ago and stuff like that. I don't want to tell anyone else's.
Yeah.
Sometimes exposures were doing submissions. So now that I'm doing writing and doing the submission process and things like that, putting myself out there and things like that, as opposed to just
being like introverted and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so is this like kind of an exposure for you?
This isn't an exposure, but doing the short story writing and submitting the work is because
submissions. That's what you meant. Okay.
Yeah, submissions.
Okay.
Because you are constantly writing, getting stuff back, and I'm always checking the email and stuff like that. So
I check. Refresh.
Yeah,
that is
so
my best friend.
getting that, and then how I handle that, and learning to take the ego out of that process.
100%, and that's smart. I mean, the ego, taking out the ego is just hard, but it's the biggest part of it. So, I have exposed to like submissions for me is almost like.
Yeah.
The equivalent of a submission for you would probably, for me, an exposure for me would probably be dealing with feedback from people who have seen my stand-up, right? Because it's like the same process of like putting all your vulnerability out there, and then something coming back with you being like, I didn't like it, or I did like it, and then kind of dealing with that. Yeah. And how I deal with that, I don't know if this is similar for you, but I use a lot of positive reframes where it's like, I started comedy when I was in a good place purposely so that I wouldn't have to like go through that and be in a horrible place. But like, for example, there was a woman who walked out in one of my shows. I talked about this on the podcast, but she walked out because I was talking about suicide, and then the joke crushed, and I got like an applause break and everything. And she got up and left and then yelled at me and told me I should never talk about suicide. And yada yada yada, like red, like she was seeing red, like red in her face. And I told myself, this is her personal problem. This has nothing to do with me. I wasn't bashing anybody. Yeah. Everybody else liked it.
You don't know what someone's walking in the room with.
Exactly. And so for me, that's like kind of how I deal with it, is like positive reframes in terms of like, don't take this personally. This person didn't like it. You know, there's a difference between constructive criticism, like I didn't like it because, and then just like straight up aggressiveness and yelling. And so positive affirmations helps me with that, and reframes. I'm sure these are all therapy terms, but what helps you when you get a bad submission or something you don't hear back from her?
Some of the things that help with the positive reframing of what's the actuality of the situation is a good phrase. What I'm trying to think of a good way. When all else fails, think of how Jenna phrases things. Who's my wife? If you're coming in at the middle of the podcast, what's the actuality of that? Is a good thing.
100%.
What's the rationality? Of that.
Thinking of it logically.
What's the logic?
Being like, everything is okay. I will be okay. It's not the end of the world. And just looking at it just like very blankly.
And sometimes you have to, through this process where we're all a little bit thinking on the right brain, we have to learn to think left brain a little bit more.
Creative. So maybe there being some math problems in the paper. I know, in the journal. Okay, so before we wrap up, I just want to ask you, what gets you over that hump of exposure? Because a lot of people, when I talk to them, they're like, I could never look at a spider and think this was going to help me in some way. And for me, what helped me get over the hump of that was that like, this will improve my life and my quality of life, and it's not that bad. What makes you submit something?
It's knowing that I have a goal for where I want to be, for what I'm trying to do for quality. If I want to create something meaningful to get to the next level, and it's, again, to go back to Viktor Frankl. And most of the writing I'm doing is just for art therapy. Most of the pieces are about mental health awareness and relationships.
That's great.
So if it's about creating and getting the work to that next level. And I need to kind of build a support bridge for that by having it in some magazines to get it to a wider audience, to get a message out. One of the reasons I wanted to do the podcast was to say to people that are seeing me, you know, it's okay to talk about not being okay.
Right. Is that what your bracelet's
Yeah, that's what my, you know, from Hope for the Day.
I got a pin that says that. It's shipping right now, so I'm waiting on that.
I'll let, you know, if we're wrapping up.
I'll
end with this. When I went inpatient, they make you fill out a form of who can you talk to when you're not in a good place.
Yeah.
Other than family, the people I put on that list were not there for me. But as I spoke about it, who came out there for me came out from the woodwork because I spoke out. And they were people that I barely knew and are in my team.
Right.
You got to form a team when you do this. You got to be honest, and you have a support system.
That's great.
And Jenna would be like, I never knew why you hung out with that person. Now I know.
Right.
Or like it was 100%. One person that like I knew a friend of a friend that heard, and he's like, I'm up all the time writing. Yeah. If you can't sleep, give me a call.
No, that's the best. Yeah. It is great, and I think that's super important in terms of like people can't read your mind, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to know what you're going through unless you say it, which is super hard. But then to know that people will be there for you if you say something. Where can people find you? Instagram?
Oh, Instagram, Dominic, DOMINO. You gotta be able to spell my name. DOMINIC _lives. There's a reason I chose that.
Yeah.
At Instagram, and then
like short stories. Do you have anything published?
You know, I am not there yet, but I'm exposing.
But more exposure.
More exposure there. Through I'm not done exposing myself.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks.
Please remember to like subscribe, rate, review. Thank you for watching Doing Time.